Imagine that you spend over 30 hours per week on a sport and also attend classes in a full course load. Your school earns millions of dollars per year based off of how you and your team performs, and your coach also makes millions of dollars per year. You participate in the multi-billion-dollar NCAA industry, but don't earn any money outside of scholarships. You are in the shoes of thousands of NCAA athletes. How do you feel about not being paid? Today, I want to get you guys to understand that there's inequality of athletes compared to the NCAA schools and their coaches. And I also want you to believe that some NCAA athletes should be paid. A lot of students struggle financially because they spend at least 20 hours a week on their sport and at least another 12 hours when attending classes. Being a student athlete alone is a full-time job. According to the NCAA, student athletes may not exceed more than 20 hours per week on athletically related activities, including meetings, practice, lifting, events, and games. An online survey conducted by the NCAA shows that on average, D1 athletes spend nearly 40 hours per week on their sport. D2 athletes spend nearly 35 hours per week, and D3 spend approximately 30 hours per week. This shows that athletes are being overworked and they aren't being compensated for their hard work. CBS News published an article, "Do College Athletes Have Time to Be Students?" This article explains the survey that was provided and conducted by the NCAA at the University of North Carolina at 2 different times. The survey conducted in 2006 shows that student athletes spend an average of 45 hours a week on athletics. The same survey in 2011 showed that student athletes spend an average of 37 hours per week. These surveys prove that student athletes barely have enough time for academics, let alone a job to help provide for themselves. Another issue with student athletes not being paid is the ridiculous amount of money that is involved from student athletes' abilities to perform. According to the NCAA, they bring in nearly $1 million per year in revenue. Most of the money comes from CBS Sports for the rights to the air of the NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Championship, also known as March Madness. None of that money goes directly to the student athletes that help earn this money. Rather than paying athletes, the NCAA, a non-profit organization, pays their top executives millions of dollars per year. Not only does the NCAA benefit from the athletes, but the schools they play for do as well. According to a Business Insider article written by Court Gaines, the average D1 school revenue for football is $16 million per year, and the average D1 men's basketball program brings in nearly $10 million per year. This revenue comes from tickets, merchandise, and apparel sales, TV advertisements, and their conferences based on how they perform. The article also expressed that the top 25 NCAA schools bring in nearly $100 million per year, and some on the high end of $180 million per year, such as the University of Texas. Many of these schools earn more money than most NHL teams do. Each NHL player gets paid a minimum of $550,000 per year, while making less money than several college programs. The average D1 athlete scholarship is only worth $25,000 per year. Some colleges pay their coaches millions of dollars to coach these unpaid athletes. According to Business Insider, the University of Alabama head coach Nick Saban earns a salary of $11.1 million per year. Another reason why student athletes should be paid is that they shouldn't have to struggle while they are student athletes. After Shabazz Napier and the UConn men's basketball team won the 2014 NCAA championship in front of 79,000 people in attendance that earned his school, conference, and NCAA millions of dollars, he sat down in an interview with CBS on his thoughts. Shabazz expressed that he doesn't always have money for food. In the interview, Shabazz said that there's hungry nights where I'm not able to eat, but I still got to play up to my capabilities. And he also said that some nights I got to go to bed starving. Shabazz was among thousands of student athletes that struggle. I personally don't think student athletes should make hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I do think they should be paid enough for living expenses and whatnot. One suggestion to paying these athletes is to reduce the amount of money that schools spend on coaches and reduce the amount of money the NCAA pays their executives. These athletes can be paid based on how much money their sport helps the school earn. One simple way to pay them is the federal minimum wage of $7.25 for the 20 hours a week they put in for athletically related activities. I think if athletes were paid, it would encourage them to stay in school and graduation rates would increase. because a lot of athletes tend to leave college early to turn professional to make money based off their performances. By paying athletes, it would also increase the competitiveness in NCAA sports because athletes would be less likely to turn pro so soon. I hope this makes you want to believe that some student athletes should be paid.